What other jurisdictions also offer offshore banking licenses?
There are other jurisdictions like Cayman Islands that they are considered first tier, meaning they are first category in terms of providing licenses. Very old jurisdictions like Cayman Islands. There are second tier licensing like the Bahamas, British Virgin Islands. They are not that strict in terms of requirements as Cayman is, but they are second tier, meaning that they are second category of licenses. And finally, there is a third category of licenses like Dominica, Vanuatu in the South Pacific, in the Pacific South, that they are considered third tier. And they are, for example, Dominica, they are the easier to apply because the protectorate of Dominica, the Commonwealth of Dominica, please not confuse it with Dominican Republic. That's something else. Then this protectorate or this Commonwealth of Dominica is a territory from the England, or you could say from the United Kingdom, and they are interested in, first of all, qualify the clients, the candidates to apply for the license, but also they want to attract investment to the island. So there is quite a few requirements where the applicant needs to contribute to a fund in the island of Dominica, and then after same process. The process is similar to Puerto Rico. You have to provide a business plan, you have to provide anti-money laundering, you have to provide the policies and procedures, how you're going to handle, how you're going to manage transactions and serve your client. So the process is similar in all these offshore jurisdictions, including Puerto Rico, but is the classification. Puerto Rico and Cayman Islands will be in the first tier. I will say even Puerto Rico, it's even in a higher tier because it's separate. It's not, let's say it is offshore in the sense that it is only, whenever you apply to offshore license, or the concept of offshore is that you can only serve clients outside of the territory that you're applying. So if you apply a license for an international bank in Puerto Rico, you will not be able, or the applicant will not be able to take deposit or make loans within Puerto Rico, but only outside of Puerto Rico, including any other state in the US. That's one of the concepts of offshore. That's why it is offshore, and also the confidentiality. So Puerto Rico will be in a higher bracket, different from Cayman Island. Puerto Rico is, even though it's offshore, is part of the US system, banking system, and it will be supervised by the Federal Reserve. When the bank applies for what is called an account with the Federal Reserve. In the meantime, when there is no, because that is another process. In the meantime, when the bank has the license approved and the bank is working with the clients, the bank is supervised by the Banking Commission in Puerto Rico. Then, but that bank in Puerto Rico will be in a higher place compared to Cayman Island, that is completely offshore, first tier, Bahamas, British Virgin Islands, that is second tier, and Dominica and Vanuatu that are in third tier. Most of these banks, for example, in Vanuatu, is required for an application of a license that the applicant owns a bank in the country of in the country of headquarters. That's one of the requirements, Vanuatu. Dominica doesn't have that requirement, for example. Anyone can apply a license there, providing that it has the money for capitalization. Same thing for British Islands, but they apply higher, but Bahamas, no. Bahamas, the applicant must have a bank in the country jurisdiction. So Bahamas, even though it's a second tier, also requires that. British Virgin Islands is about the capital. British Virgin Island and Cayman Island, they require a high amount of private capital for the owner, not only for the bank. The bank is, the average deposit for capitalization in an offshore bank is $1 $1 million, $1.5 million. But Cayman Island, for example, requires for the person applying the $10 million. So if you want to apply, you have to have a private capital, cash, $10 million. That's the difference between all these jurisdictions that you will need to apply. In addition to that, referring to particularly to Cayman Islands, no, I'm sorry, to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, once the license is approved, you will need a corresponding banking, because you need an account to function, to open your client, to do your transaction with your client. Same thing applies to the rest of the offshore banking. And then when you have in Puerto Rico, when you have the account for the corresponding banking, you will need then to apply for an account with the Federal Reserve. That will take probably 6 more months. So it's all this process. You can only apply to a Federal Reserve account for an offshore bank in Puerto Rico, an international bank in Puerto Rico. Offshore banks in other jurisdictions, Cayman Islands, etc., cannot apply to a Federal Reserve. They need what is called a corresponding bank account with another bank, a larger bank, to serve their client. That's a process of application and the difference between the jurisdictions.